the weather or whatever whatever topic comes up. So topic of the day. So thank you all for joining and look forward to working with you through this 16-week program. And we've got a great calendar of events and looking forward to working with you on that. We're so lucky to have the Illinois Soybean Association, Illinois Soy Association as part of our team. And Todd Main is here from the association to share some opening thoughts. Welcome, Todd, and thank you.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Adrian. This is a very exciting and promising day because it's the kickoff of our third cohort of broadband breakthrough communities, and we're so delighted that you folks have decided to participate in this program. We really think it's going to be a game changer for rural communities across the state, and when you folks complete your program, I think we'll have, I don't know, 16 or 17 counties that will have gone through this process. And we're so excited about it because it's really going to help facilitate making sure that the federal money that gets that's allocated to come to Illinois gets distributed out and will make a difference in the counties that can put plans together. And so I would just want to say welcome. We really appreciate, a serious commitment, and it will be available to support our counties around the state. Come and thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Adrienne?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Adrienne Furness, and I'm the Executive Director of the Benton Institute for Broadband and Society. We are an over 40-year-old nonprofit focused on broadband policy, and we are working to make sure everybody in the U.S. is connected to and can benefit from high-quality, affordable broadband. And so how we do that is we strengthen local leaders like you, state leaders and national leaders by providing timely information, research, practical guidance like you're going to receive in this program, and advocacy to make sure that the regulations and laws at all levels of government are conducive to you getting great broadband. And I do want to thank Todd and his team at the Illinois Soybean Association, because they're underwriting this program. And one of the reasons we love working with them is that they have the same goals to expand broadband in rural Illinois to benefit not only their 43,000 farmers, but farmers across all crops and animal husbandry, whatever people are doing to bring food to our table and feed the world. This is a good thing, and broadband does make that better. If I could have the next slide, Reed, we'll go over who the collaborators are for this program. So right underneath the word collaborators is our incredible partners at Illinois Extension, led by Nancy and Mike. They're the ones who organize these calls, send out the communication from Bill and the team afterwards, and they're going to walk you through your community survey, which is an incredibly important part of this program. So that survey and survey analysis is just a great tool for communities. The Illinois State University people and their GEOMAP team are also going to provide you some tools. This was underwritten by the Illinois Innovation Network. One of the things they're going to do is talk to you about how high-speed broadband can improve soy and corn production and give you figures both in bushels and dollars so you know the impact on the local economy. They also are going to provide maps of high points. These are places in, whether it's farmers' fields or tall buildings in your county seat, that can host infrastructure and help you deploy broadband. So they have been working with us since our first cohort. And Todd, yes, it's going to be 17 counties by the time we get through with this. The Illinois Broadband Lab, and this young woman, I don't know if she's on, Shubika Agarwal, has been doing mapping for the state of Illinois, and she provides you with maps that are going to talk about where broadband is and isn't. So when you get to choosing your broadband provider, you know where you're supposed to be building these reliable high-speed networks. And of course, we are grateful to the Illinois Office of Broadband because they value this community engagement. When you go to apply for funding to the state, you get points on your application for having gone through one of these community engagement programs with Benton. So keep that in mind as you work with your provider, that you're actually getting rewarded in your application for funding because you are spending time with us here. Next slide. So this is just a reiteration of what I've said about the partners. We're trying to engage agricultural community leadership. And so if you don't have your Illinois farm, your county farm bureau manager on your team, please think about asking them, asking farmers, local agribusiness. Whoever is interested in making sure that they have the tools to do precision ag in your county, that's great. We're going to deliver these tools. As we said, this feeds into your action plan that Bill's going to talk about more extensively. This ISU cost benefit analysis is going to be a very important tool for you to convince anybody who isn't on the broadband bandwagon to get there. And at the end, you get to create this document that really helps you figure out how much money you're going to ask for the state or USDA or any of the other federal partners that provide money for this endeavor. Last slide. For me, that is. So we've written a publication. This was after we finished our pilot effort with the first 5 counties. And it gives you a little sneak peek about what you might expect during this program. But I just sort of point this out to you all in case you want to take a cruise through the report. The link will be sent to you in the email afterwards. I think it just, as I said, kind of gives you a preview of what's to come. So with that, Bill, I'm super thrilled that we have 6 counties in the program. You guys are spread out all over the state. I think we have 3 of our borders covered with counties. And so it's going to be a difficult trip for Bill to make in the midterm, but we're gonna make sure we visit you all. And thank you very much for joining us. Thanks, Bill.
Adrian. Oh, thank you, Adrian. Reed, why don't we stop sharing for a moment? And I'd ask the community coordinators to kind of unmute and show their cameras if they would. We're just going to do a quick round around the state here with our ask our team leaders to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their county. Just take 1 or 2 minutes why you decided to join this program. We do have the 6 counties. We're excited to have that. We've also assigned what we call our community liaisons to each of your counties. That can be kind of especially during the meetings, a point of contact. Kind of they serve as my little bit of my ears and eyes to see how things are going, see what needs assisting. They're not there to lead the meetings. They're there to assist you as they can. But I tell them I always get a little disappointed if I jump into a breakout room and it's the community liaison that's talking. Because we like this really to be community-led, community-driven. Let's first go to Boone County. Justin Crone, welcome and thank you. Robbie Macbeth will be your community liaison. Justin, tell us a little bit about Boone County.
So Boone County is a rural county, north central Illinois. We border Wisconsin, and we are between Rockford and the Chicagoland area. We are still a rural farming community. We do have our urbanized areas, city of Belvedere, and so we do have some strong economic drivers, traditional industrial areas within the city of Belvedere. And then surrounding the city of Belvedere, we do have rural agricultural farmland. Our Winnebago Boone County Farm Bureau is part of our team. We're a population of about 50,000, just over 50,000 total. So we do have a decent population, and about half of that, or a little more than half of that, comes from our two populous areas of City of Belvedere and Poplar Grove. Other than that, we're highly rural, and we do have strong needs throughout the county that have not been well served, and so a lot of it has been driven by our school districts and families in the schools, and then also farmers that are increasing their use on communications and data through. They hope to improve their reliability and speed of their data communications.
Good. Thanks a lot, Justin. That was great. Next, we'll go to Mitch McClellan in Lawrence County, and Hillary Rains from the Office of Broadband is your community liaison. Justin? Or Mitch, I'm sorry.
Mitch McClellan from Johnson County. I'm the treasurer here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I'm the treasurer for the county here. Kind of serving as team leader on this. And got a couple of people that are involved with that as well. We have a pretty strong group put together. We're extremely rural. We have a few incorporated areas that have pretty good broadband coverage, but outside of those few areas, it's extremely limited. We have quite a few geographical challenges in our county as well. So that's something that we're going to have to try to get innovative with in the way that we think about how to provide broadband access to those areas. There's definitely a great need for it. The schools have tried a few things here and there, but we need something that's more consistent, that's not on the back of the school system to do. Our team does consist of several people in the school systems, whether it's university education branches or our local school systems. So I think we got a great team together. I think there's plenty of interest, and I think we're going to accomplish some good things in this program.
Great. Thanks so much. And as always, my confusion is a part of my operating style. So sorry to get your counties mixed up there. Joe Weger is from Lawrence County. Joe, your community liaison is Grace Tepper of the Benton Institute. Joe, welcome.
Thank you, Bill. Oh, wait a minute.
You've got a few too many computers with audio in your room, I think.
Hold on just a minute.
Are you there? Hello?
Hi, this is Amy with Lawrence County Health Department. I'm with the same group. I am getting our IT person in there to try to figure out what's going on with their system. If you guys could give them just a few and come back to them, that'd be great.
It's being stupid.
Sure.
Can you hear us now?
I'm here to check in. Alexis might be under Burnett or Shreves, one of the two.
Yes, hello, Alexis. Let's go to Jeremy England in Lee County.
Yes.
618-638-17.
So, Alexis, could you mute?
There she goes.
There we go. Let's go to Jeremy England at Lee County, and Zoe Walker from Benton Institute is your community liaison.
Hi, good morning. Jeremy England. I apologize ahead of time. I'm at home sick with a 4-year-old that is watching Gabby Playhouse. So if you hear any of that, that's why. So we're from Lee County, roughly a population of 34,000 folks. You know, the majority of our land is ag, 80% actually. And so, you know, there's a significant need for broadband expansion throughout the county as our rural access is limited. You know, our population center is Dixon, with around 15,000 folks, and we do have fiber in Dixon, so you know the access there is pretty well. But throughout the county, specifically on our border, you know, areas, we have a real gap. So we saw a need, and that's why we're here. Bill and Mike Delaney from Illinois Extension has been great working with us to come in, and we have a fantastic team. We have folks from our county board. One specifically that does have a broadband access issue, as she's on one of the you know, border perimeter areas in our rural districts within the county. We do have our GIS team. We have folks from actually the president from Sauk Valley Community College is on our team. Our ROE directors on our team. And we're continuing to build that. We do have our Farm Bureau on the team as well, but we're gonna look for some more farming representation, as we were, you know, listening to Nancy earlier on in the presentation. But we're really excited to be here, and look forward to working with all of you to hopefully expand broadband through all the counties. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And I know that I'm going to try this again, Massac County. I think I've got that right. We've got usually Tiffany Corte is coordinator, but I think she might be out ill today. Welcome to our friends from the southern corner of Illinois. Do we have a leader from Massac County?
I think they're working on it, looks like.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
All right, Bill, you was pretty close. It's Massac County.
Massac.
Yeah, we're working on it.
I'm trying.
Yes, Miss Tiffany is out ill today. I think she's online, but she asked for me to speak on her behalf. So I'm a little nervous. Massac County is looking to expand broadband to our area. We're a rural area in southern Illinois. We have diverse terrain that has impacted broadband to be developed here. We're looking to have broadband in our area to help with economic development, our school systems, extend broadband to the agricultural area and the families in those areas. So that's kind of what we're looking to do. We do have a very diverse team. Tiffany has put, and others have put together a very good team. We have about 22 members. So hopefully we can tackle this and expand broadband to our area.
Good, and thank you so much. And I also want to introduce Dora Kukulu. She's your Science and Technology Policy Fellow from the University of Illinois, and she's going to be sitting in with your team. Thank you. Let's go to Vermilion County and Mike Marin. Ling Ling Lu will be your community liaison from the Illinois Broadband Lab.
Thank you, Bill. I'm Mike Marin with Vermilion Advantage, which is the economic development corporation here in Vermilion County. Vermilion County is East Central Illinois, right on the Indiana state line. We have a population of about 74,000. Roughly half, a little under half of that is within the city of Danville, which is an old blue collar industrial town that's lost a lot of its industry over the last 30 or 40 years. And we've faced some really uphill economic challenges. The rest of the county is small communities and rural agriculture, farm communities. Agriculture is definitely the biggest, most prominent, most successful industry in the county. Internet access, broadband, it's very hit and miss out in the rural areas. So I'm, in addition to running economic development, I'm also a family farmer. I live out in the far west end of the county, and we have hotspots off of our cell phone is how we use the internet where I live. So something that's very important to me. Carrie Winky with Vermilion County Farm Bureau is on our team, and we've got a good team from the county, and looking forward to trying to expand access in Vermilion County.
Good, thank you so much. Let's go back now to Lawrence County and Joe. Grace Tepper is your community liaison.
I think Joe's on mute, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
Are you okay now? Can you hear me now, Bill?
Yeah, sounds good, Joe. Thank you.
I'm gonna start over one more time. Joe Wager's my name, and we're in Lawrence County, and Lawrence County's in southeastern Illinois. County's about 13,000, I believe. We're basically a rural county. Agriculture is probably our #1 industry. We were former big in oil production and refining. We had a refinery here at one time, and that is gone. And so we realized the desperate need for infrastructure in our county if we're to prosper. And that's one thing that has motivated me and everybody in this room. And so we're happy to be here. We want to participate, and we're just thrilled. And that's about all I got to say about it. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you to all. And I think we have 6 great teams. Sometimes we start our programs and I look at 1 or 2 of the teams. I think, oh boy, I hope they can make it and make it through. They always do. They always come together, and this is really an important part. Hillary, thanks. So now we're gonna have to think. Hillary, I see Hillary. I'm talking to Hillary due to the chat. Hillary, I had you with Johnson. Oh, okay. I originally had I goofed up when I switched my roster here. When I goofed up the counties, I've confused Grace and Hillary. So they're going to show up in your rooms here in a moment, and they can introduce yourselves, and I'll get back on track here with my roster. So thanks everyone. One of the things that we're going to do next is go into some breakout rooms, and just number 1, to practice getting in and out of our breakout rooms. But number 2, we always assume, I think big city folks like myself and Adrienne, that everyone in smaller communities in rural places knows each other. And I think that is a myth, certainly when you have 50,000 people in a county, or even 15,000 people in the county. There's a lot of folks that are in the community that aren't as well known. I've had many people say, well, it's the same dozen people that do everything in our community. And, that's really a lesson to learn. I've worked a lot in rural communities over the years. And if you ask people who are newer to the county, they say they've never been asked really to participate in anything. And so this is something that is we go into the breakout rooms, we just ask you to kind of say, well, who's, have everyone on the team introduce themselves, kind of quickly tell their broadband story about why they thought it was important that they're there, so you understand their perspective as to why they're on the team. And, frankly, if you do know everyone on your team, then I'd encourage you to think, well, who are we missing? People who haven't been here as long, or people who are in lower profile positions, maybe people who are working from home. And so use this opportunity, if you need additional people on your team, to think about who else might be here. We're just going to take about 20 minutes. So for the folks that got 20 people on their team, that's less than a minute per person. So you want to move quickly kind of through this process, but make sure that everyone on the team knows each other, gives a little background on themselves and so on. So we're going to go into the breakout rooms, and And hopefully at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little square box that says breakout rooms. And there's 4 little squares that looks like a window. And you should be able to jump right in. Nancy will give you permission. She'll open those breakout rooms and you'll be able to jump in. If you're having difficulty with that, let us know and we can put you in a room and hopefully go you know, right in there the next time, because that towards the end of the day today, we'll go back into the breakout rooms. I would say in general, our plan is always to have our sessions last an hour where we're giving you content. And then secondly, the second hour is really your time. But today it's a little different. Our first one will be in our larger group, a little bit more of the session. And then shorter time and breakouts today. So good. Nancy, do you want to open up those rooms? So you should have just seen a thing that says join a breakout room. Click on that breakout room box at the bottom of your screen. And the various rooms will, you'll see the list of them. One for each county.
Yes, and when it's an icon with 3 squares, and when you click on it, you might have to scroll down to see your county name, especially as folks get into their counties. That scrolling might lengthen for folks. And if you have any issues getting into your breakout room, you can just unmute yourself and let me know which room you need to get into, and I can put you there manually as well.
Bill, do you need me
Yes.
at any other point?
I don't.
Okay, so I'm gonna get back because I've got a meeting coming up at 9, but thank you all. It's great to hear about the team. Sounds like a great group. Nancy?
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Bill Donahue from Vermilion County. I'm on a pad and I don't see anything that would take me to a breakout room.
All right.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. So David Christian, I think you're with Massac, so I will put you there.
To the Lee County and probably make an appearance in Boone as well.
Sounds good, Mike. You're going to be going back and forth, probably.
I see the 2345 number. Is that somebody who wants to go into a room?
Yeah. I guess
And
they don't really
I've
have.
prompted both of those lines to unmute themselves. I don't know if they can accept that, but let me also check in the roster. And I know probably you have the roster open too.
And Kennedy Phillips?
Wonder why. My search function isn't working for the roster. Hold on.
Kennedy, are you there?
Okay, I'm going to go into the online one and see. Kennedy. Maybe it's spelled with an I.
Kenedd, or Kenneddee. And then I have Joseph. Joseph, do you need Joseph Massac?
Yeah, and none of those names are on the roster yet.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Let's do the
Oh,
phone numbers.
That's good.
Got some phone numbers left, perhaps?
Nope.
Okay.
No, they
Oh,
figured it out.
Kennedy Phillips. I'll try the last name here. No, not on the roster.
Okay.
Well,
Well, maybe she's in
Kennedy,
the meeting room already in a larger group or something.
sure. Otherwise, I can prompt you to unmute yourself so you can tell us where you need to go. And then we've got a few Otter pilots that we can just, I think at this point we can remove them. Are we going to, let me pause the recording.
So welcome back, everyone. I hope you had good conversations, and you know, there's a lot of knowledge in the room. I think you probably found that out, that in your teams you have some people who know about the broadband to the schools, or the broadband to the in the towns, or just so take advantage of that. There's not one person who's your expert in your room. You're all on the team because for a reason. Your connections to the community, knowledge of technology, and so on, and all bring great value. We're going to run through a quick program overview so that everyone on the team really understands what they've signed up for, and can really anticipate what's going to happen through the program. Know that the critical piece is that your team is creating your plan, really helping to determine your community's future around broadband and technology. And so it's incredibly important. And the more you can put in these 16 weeks, the better off you're going to be set for maybe the next 20 or 30 years as a community, because we know broadband is an essential infrastructure, really having a huge impact on community future going forward. Next slide, Reed. Again, here's our purpose, is for you to determine, pursue, and achieve the best possible solution for your community. We know that you can, it'd be possible for me to create the generic plan for your community. I could pull that out of my files today, but it'd really be generally irrelevant to your particular situation. Every community has its own mix of population and demographics and geography, existing provider mix, prospective providers in the neighborhood, so to speak. And so this is really about you finding your solution in the program. Next. Guided self-help, 4-month program, empowering you as community teams, meeting weekly, and attendance it's kind of like going to the gym. Showing up and participating is really an important part of this. Critical information gathering here at the start, strategy development as we proceed. But know that we are here to help you. We've got a great team within Benton, within the Office of Broadband, the Illinois Broadband Lab, and so on. We're going to bring that information, resources, experience to help you succeed. So don't be afraid to ask questions, ask for assistance if you struggle, and know that we're in here for you. Next. We really have this 4 or 6 stages of the process. This leadership recruitment, although you've got your team in place, it's never too late to add folks, but educating your team about broadband, bringing you together along this path is important. The information gathering, vision development is really an important part. What's good enough for our community? And so when a broadband provider is going to apply for a grant, you know, does their project meet our needs? Does it meet our vision going forward? And that gives you kind of a firm foundation on which to make choices about broadband options. Understanding the opportunities, which providers, which technologies, which broadband financing programs, all critical for you to understand that and kind of measure one opportunity against the next, and then helping pursue those opportunities. The reporting, that's really the most important reporting, is to your own community, to keep people informed about what you're doing, bring them on board to support your efforts. And then finally, project development. We just had a community a couple weeks inform us that after 2 years of work, after completing the program, they are getting fiber to the home in their little community on the Mississippi River. They're tucked into a ravine, into the bluff, extremely difficult to serve, but they persevered, and now that's coming to fruition. Next. When we talk about the team membership, and I know some of you have heard this now probably 3 times, but they say we have to hear things 8 times to fully incorporate them. So bigger is better. I'm really excited about the size of the teams in this cohort. I think that's going to really pay off for your team. Again, this variety of knowledge, the community connections, and know that if your team, you know, there's ways to keep people involved without having them necessarily be on the team full time. So think about that. Who do you need to call on occasion to get their participation? Know that there's going to be no shortage of information coming your way. Both as they used to say in college, you know, here's the required reading and here's the supplemental material. So there's going to be a lot of great information there for you. Next. In terms of the information gathering, the surveys, your leadership team and the orientation heard about this last week, but it's going to be on the agenda again next week. Think about the communities or organizations in your community whose logo you'd want to include in a survey to show the breadth of community support. And if there are those organizations, feel free to start gathering those up right now so you can have them available to give to Nancy. Know also that we do a speed test, and that's tied to something called the challenge process that's going on right now in Illinois. And it's a good first step for that speed test, although the speed test ends the 18th of March, or the challenge process. So, but it'd still be great to gather this data. Know there's other ways to get this information from around your community, whether it's focus groups or tours. Provider interviews are really important. It's how do you build a relationship? How do you select providers to see who you want to partner with over the years ahead? And then we give you lots of information. I see here it says Missouri broadband maps, but it's really Illinois broadband maps for a complete set of information you'll be getting soon. That's in our 3rd week of information. Next. This vision development. This is where you can have a lot of these conversations on your team about what's important to you, what's good enough, and some of the trade-offs between those considerations. And we'll talk a lot more about that in about week 4, where we're asking you to put words to paper about what your team is thinking. Know that once that's down on paper, it's easy to edit and change as you gain more information, as your team coalesces around important ideas. But it's important to begin that conversation and really put that to paper so people in the community can understand what it is you're pursuing. Again, all part of that communications reporting to your community. Next. And then the opportunities. One of the most important things that we think that we help you with is preparing you to be a good partner with broadband providers, so that when a provider comes to a city council or to a county board and asks for a letter of support, they really know what it is you're prepared to do to assist them. You have a clear idea of, is this a project that you support? If not, why not? And so being a good partner is an important part of this. Also, what's our plan B? Sometimes that first strategy doesn't work out. What are we going to do next? If we can't get our preferred provider, And that might include everything from doing nothing to becoming your own broadband provider as a countywide or municipal effort. And we've seen multiple communities do that quite successfully. In our new, in our email out to you later, probably later today or tomorrow, there'll be a press release about a new guidebook just recently being published by the American Association for Public Broadband and the Benton Institute, where I was the author, but it really lays out the path to public broadband ownership. Next. And then this report to the community, again, it's not a single report. We do have at the end of our program, your graduation ceremony, in essence, is your presentation to the other communities in the group about what you found and what you're going to do about that. But that ongoing communication to your community is really important by doing regular presentations to the county board, through newspaper articles, radio shows. We encourage you to really get out there and spread the message. Next. Question about fast or slow. You know, the map has gotten to be a lot more complicated over the years as federal funds have flowed to providers. And so it's the maps now have become more of a checkerboard of served and unserved and what's eligible for grants. And so know that it could be any combination of these things, whether fast or slow, one big countywide project, or a bunch of piecemeal smaller projects, and know that it could require multiple strategies to make 100% coverage in your community. Next. So here's our weekly schedule. We usually have a topic of the week. Here we are at the top week with the Broadband 101 discussion we'll have here in a minute. Broadband surveys this next week, and Nancy is a tremendous resource to you, Nancy Estre-Odrago, who is on the call, and you'll meet her in depth next week, but she's helped probably now 40 communities in Illinois do these broadband surveys, and has really got a system down. With mapping, we'll be talking about that, and we'll provide you with a packet of broadband maps and explain how the Illinois broadband mapping system works and so on. We'll be talking about your vision, goals, and outcomes the next week, coalition building, and then you can see we start to get into more details, fiber optics, wireless. Midweek there, or mid-session, Reed and I will be on the road in Illinois from north to south, and especially in the east, and looking forward to visiting you there. And we'll talk more about those visits, but that's really a great opportunity to have a big community meeting, showcase your what you're working on, some kind of broadband summit or so on. And then we get into the real nitty-gritty of ownership and partnership models, feasibility studies, financing, and then we get into the last couple of weeks, local planning sessions where you're really working on that, and then local planning sessions and community presentations. So I've been seeing Jerry, I see you in the chat there, and if you'll be able to see, and you'll get that link today, or maybe Reed can actually put that link in the chat, or I will here later, about that document. And then there's 6 or 7 great examples of community examples there of best practices in this community networks. Thanks, Reed has got that right there. So fresh off the press. Next. And so here's these outcomes that might come out of your plan. This fully implementable project with broadband provider partners, likely financing. That's, the best case scenario. You might have a conceptual plan, thinking about the financing and the partners. You might have a partial plan for parts of your county, but not other parts. Or just you may find we need more information. We've talked to broadband providers in the area. They're not as interesting. And they're not as interested in your community. You may have to go and do a detailed network design, business pro forma, financing plan, a higher level of consulting to help you find, to get to the solution you want. And then a decision to do nothing. That's always a possibility. We haven't really had communities do much of that. Everyone's got some things happening, but that's always a possibility. Just a quick note from the chat, the Otter, that many people are using these note-taking devices, and those companies are excellent at marketing themselves to get more users, more subscribers. You can just ignore that Otter business if you choose to. The notes are actually quite cool in some of these recording things, but know that that's kind of a third-party thing that we allow folks to use those devices so they can share the notes and so on. And so just know that you don't have to click yes on those things. Next. And so that's really the program overview. Are there any questions or comments about really the program details and how it works? And I love questions. It takes a certain braveness to unmute and ask a question. And questions are always good in the chat. We like that as well. But chances are, if you're asking it, thinking it, others are as well. So don't be shy. Throughout this whole program, we have a lot of guest speakers. They love questions. I know when I present, I don't get any questions. I have two choices to think. I can either think, well, I'm the world's best presenter and everything I say is very clear, or I'm the world's worst presenter and people are really bored with it and just don't want to hear any more from me. So I prefer the first option, but I think it's probably more likely the latter. So, but feel free to ask questions as we go through. A question of how much is available and is tied to unserved only. Unserved, and as we get later on, we'll talk financing in detail, but generally know that all of the broadband funding from the federal government, the highest priority are the unserved areas. There's some unserved can take some portions of that, but really the idea is that if people do not have really and essentially a high quality broadband service of at least 100 megabits down and 20 up, that is the those areas are the highest priority. So let's talk now about Broadband 101, and know that we're later on in the program we'll have a full week on fiber optics where we have great speakers explaining network engineering and capabilities and so on. Same thing with wireless technologies. And so that know that those presentations are coming. And as you think about this, if you're not a technology person, just take in as much as you can absorb. Know that there's going to be a lot of questions. You don't understand things. I might use some jargon, technical things. Feel free to ask questions about that, or just hold and say, hey, I'll come around. We'll learn more later about that and I'll absorb it later. Next slide. When we think about broadband, the first temptation is to only think about download speed. And that's certainly a critical piece. Download is the information that's coming to you for streaming, for web surfing, and so on. But now critically important, more and more, is the upload speed. And upload speed is the information from your computer to the internet. And so this has become more important as we do Zoom calls, because every time you say something, you're sending information, and really your computer is sending your video stream to the server, no matter whether you're saying anything or not. So that stability of your connection is really important. We know that farmers in particular generate a lot of data by sensors, by drones, by all those kind of things. And so that's important. We know that people who do photography, wedding photographers, and so on. I see talking about students participating in online learning, uploading data to the cloud, sending in their assignments. Again, lots of video. So that's an important piece of this as well. More and more important. And as we get to the technologies later, know that fiber optic technology is really the only technology that supports what they would call symmetric speeds, up and down at the same high level speeds. Everything else prioritizes the download speeds at the expense of the upload. Another technical term is latency, and that's the delay in the service. And so the more latency, the more choppy your video gets. It becomes more like talking on a two-way radio. Again, fiber optics are the king of low latency, very, very, very little latency there. The traditional satellite service, they're the dogs of latency, where it almost becomes like they're talking on a two-way radio as opposed to normal conversation. We know that reliability is a critical piece. The more we sit in our homes and want to work from home, the more important the fact is that it's working. You know, is my internet up today? And we know that folks who rely on wireless technologies or older DSL technologies know that that reliability is really lacking in many cases. And so that's a real challenge, you know, and my provider, Comcast, frankly, has been extremely reliable over the last 20 years of me working from home. There's some people have more outage in a week or in a day than I've had in years. And so that that reliability is really important. And especially when we think about when there's money involved. If you're in business, working from home, that reliability is critical. If you're not working online, you're probably not getting paid by your employer. And so that's a real challenge for folks. We know that affordability has become a critical issue as we want everyone to be connected. Now, certainly the pandemic with kids in school, knowing that they need a high quality internet connection and devices. You know, if parents can't afford that connection, kids are left out. We used to kind of talk anecdotally about the homework gap, that you know who did or didn't have internet service by which kids ran for the school light or for the community library after the fact, which ones are staying after school to do their homework or showing up before school to do their homework. And know that that's just for families that are challenged either because of affordability or availability, no internet available in their location, that just putting them behind the eight ball for falling farther and farther behind. And then certainly mobility. You know, if we travel around, everyone's got their phone, they've got their tablet. People like to be connected at all times, to be able to work from a coffee shop, from pull over at the rest stop and have a video conference as people travel around the state. And so that mobility is a critical piece. So it's not a question of, do I want do I want wired or wireless service? People who can afford it generally have both. People who have lower incomes and can only choose one kind of form of connectivity often choose the mobile phone as a way to connect, because moms and dads need that phone for connecting with their kids, for being available to their kids. And so that mobile device sometimes is the only device that's available for folks. Next. We know that rural challenges are here. The low population density is a huge issue when you're thinking about 1 or 2 houses, 3, 4, 5 houses per mile along country roads. You know, that is just a real challenge for broadband providers to say, we're going to spend $30,000 on a mile of fiber and only be able to hit, you know, a half dozen customers. That makes it very difficult for their, what they would say, their business case for them to make a living that way. We know that there's some places in Illinois that's great topsoil. You can plow fiber without hitting a rock, just right down that mile of roadway without an issue. Other places there's wetlands, there's rock that make the engineering and costs much higher. Competitive and complicated grant processes are certainly a barrier. If you don't have grant writers in your community, if your providers are smaller, don't necessarily have a lot of expertise about financing projects through state and federal programs, that can be a real challenge. Sometimes your existing provider, you know, there's a phone company everywhere, they have assigned territories, how they decide to become fiber providers, broadband providers. Sometimes they're just not really interested in serving your community. They have shareholders that are their primary group to satisfy, not necessarily their customers. And we've seen that on and on. A company like AT&T has just said, we're not going to sell DSL services over our old telephone lines anymore. And they're just not really interested in serving the rural areas much. You know, they may not only not want to be interested in helping you, but they may want to stop projects that would come in and serve you because they're still receiving telephone revenue off their old network. And certainly they have their own wireless products to sell. The broadband maps are probably the controversy of the year with federal broadband financing. The maps are all based on data that the providers submit to the federal government. And we've seen a lot of cases recently where suddenly the providers are claiming they can provide that 100 down and 20 up service, even though there's no real evidence that they can, just to make areas ineligible for broadband financing. And that's what this challenge is about. And we're going to have a little quick presentation today about the challenge process, but no, it's incredibly complicated and it is a real challenge for communities. And then just digital equity considerations about the availability, about the affordability. Large numbers of rural folks can't afford $100 for a monthly broadband service, or $600 to get signed up for Starlink satellite service. And so there's a lot of challenges there. Next. Here's the Illinois broadband map. The red areas are the unserved areas. And so know that there's a lot of rural Illinois that has not a lot of service. We have maps for each of the counties. And then as in a couple of weeks, we'll provide you with a whole set of maps for your county. But here's, you can kind of see, here's Johnson. You can see someone built some fiber along a highway there. So you can see that ribbon of red service along an area, but wide areas of unserved areas along that. Next. Lawrence County, you can see kind of some clusters of service, but wide areas of no service. Lee County, kind of that same kind of spider web of ink blots where the metro areas are served, the unserved areas not so much. Next. And Vermilion, much the same. So we can see why communities signed up. And here's Massac County. And I think I got it right that time, so that's good. Again, who provides the service is really, and the quality of service is really a historical accident in many cases. So in some communities, they have very large providers that have been shown less interest in rural over the years. Other places have telephone cooperatives or locally owned by privately held companies where they really focused on their service area, didn't go out and spend their money on acquisitions or buying other kind of systems. And so some of those locally owned, whether again, cooperative or privately held, are quite well served. Others have no service at all based on the kind of who has owned them over the years. When we think about the marketplace, we have this unserved areas has been 25 down and 3 up. And now this underserved of 25 down and 3 up to 100 down and 20 up has been traditionally been underserved. We see now in the grant rules, the 100 by 20 is a primary measure of served and unserved. In Illinois, we had broadband goals of 25 down and 3 up by this year, 100% coverage, and 100 by 20 by 2028. And all these were set before all this federal money was coming to the marketplace. We know that in wireless, that the fiber-fed fixed wireless now can deliver that 100 by 50 or 100 by 20 service, but know that it's also kind of 80% coverage when somebody puts up a tower. And even in the more flattest rural parts of Illinois, you can kind of count on 20% of the people not getting reliable service. You need line of sight. My radio has to be able to see the radio tower for service. We know that the farther you go away from that tower, the slower the speeds. The more people who are connecting to that tower for service, the slower the speeds are going to be. We know that cellular, we've seen the AT&T, the T-Mobile, Verizon home products. And again, while those do a better job of going through trees, they are also distance limited. And now low Earth satellite, which is something like Starlink, is a huge advancement, but with service that may or may not be reliable, may not get the speeds that they promise. We've seen as Starlink has had more customers, their speed has been reduced. And then also just the affordability is a challenge. There's not a lot of people who have $600 in their savings account to spend on that kind of the connection fees, plus more than $100 a month for service. As much as wireless has improved, fiber optics have improved more. So now we see 1 gigabit service widely available over fiber, and that's high speed up and down. And now all the equipment that's being sold is 10 gigabit capable. So they're really positioned for the future to deliver those higher speeds. We actually are seeing now multi-megabit fiber services available in the marketplace. We know that cable companies, as they upgrade their services, where they can deliver 1 gigabit down and 50 megabits up. And frankly, 50 megabits up, if you're getting that, that's going to meet most residential customers' needs, many business customers' needs. But we've seen, they provide their service over coaxial cable, which has that limited upload. Most cable companies now, when they install new networks, are going 100% fiber to the home. And also know that if you have this DSL service, you're likely to be much less than 25 down and 3 up, and more likely in less than 10 megabits and 1 up. Next. So I've talked about fiber to the home. It's almost unlimited capacity, symmetrical service. It's highly reliable, whether it's buried or on the poles. A lot of that is because it's new, but it's also a very simple engineering-wise. It's not a very complicated kind of technology to deliver and to maintain. We had a speaker in our previous cohort talk about the long life, and now she claimed up to 100 years that this fiber optic will be in place. And frankly, the oldest fiber in the ground now is over 30 years and still working. And they would claim Corning would say they've made huge strides in bendability and the equipment and so on. Know that if you have bad wireless in your area, it's because you probably lack fiber optics that's going to carry that signal. When you do a cellular call, it goes to that tower, and then it goes right on to fiber optics from there. And so know that fiber is really the primary foundation for high quality wireless services. The flip side is that it's expensive to build, takes time to build. And so this will be one of the big challenges you face in policy is, man, can we get something out to people as fast as possible in the next year or 18 months? Wireless kind of is possible to do that. Fiber takes 2, 3, 4 years to cover an entire county. And so that is a real challenge there. And you'll have a lot of discussions about that. Next. The DSL service, and frankly, I probably should just even drop this slide because it's so, no one's looking at DSL solutions anymore, but this helps you understand what you have. Several years ago, the FCC funded the main big companies to improve DSL services, and they put in a lot of fiber, they put in a lot of DSL access modules, but you can see here, this is an actual exchange in Minnesota where I did a study that shows, even though you got a lot of those red dots, you know, if you're within 1,000 feet of that electronics box, your service might be okay. Some of you might also have 1,000-foot driveways in your rural areas. And so just you see after they did their upgrade, all that area that's outside the red circle is definitely less than 25.3 services. And so it's just, was not a great investment in the government when they could have put a lot of that money into 100% fiber optic networks. Next. Cable networks, I mentioned, fiber to the node is their usual process. Those nodes serve up to 250 people. It's widely available in communities, much less so in the rural areas. Cable companies have been unregulated and didn't have to have networks out in the rural areas. So they've only really gone where it's been profitable over time. There's some promise of the future 10 gigabits over their existing networks. That would require a lot of reworking and so on. And we've seen a lot more cable companies deploying fiber to the home as opposed to this 10 gigabit service that they've promised over their existing networks. It's non-symmetrical, you know, so it's high speed down, lower speed up. But again, if you have 50 meg up as a residential service, there's very few people are really going to test that on a daily basis. And then again, we've seen some cable companies lining up for the federal money that's available. And so we've seen more of them now expanding into rural areas, but generally edging out from their existing networks to more of the suburban areas of their rural areas, as opposed to trying to do widespread broadband in the countryside. Next. Cell service. We've heard a lot about 5G, and most of the 5G is in more urban areas. We finally implemented 4G service throughout the United States. You can see where the speeds that they're delivering, if you look at and this now is a year old, but the 78 down and 9 up, and you can see the variation between providers. A lot of that is, you know, where is that tower in relationship? And I know that in rural areas, everyone knows exactly which provider they need to get to deliver the best possible service at their home or business or generally in their lives. People may have to choose, well, this doesn't work that great at my house, but it works everywhere else. So I better get it where it works everywhere else. So it's generally kind of unreliable. in many rural places. When we hear about the 5G, there's really a couple different kinds. Originally, Verizon's is gigabit over short distance. So talking about really in college campuses, corporate environments, football stadiums, where you have that high speed and multiple users can make use of it at a time. T-Mobile has a lot more of this mid-band 5G, and that can go a longer distance. But know that most of the time, you're going to be on you see things like 5G evolution, a lot of labeling that makes you think you have 5G, but it's not really, it's 4G plus or something. And then you see those disadvantages of data limits, relatively expensive, and then just the inconsistency of coverage. Next. Fixed wireless, and we've seen a lot of companies involved in this. Historically, that's been a lot of very small companies where somebody says, well, I could do this, and they put up one tower with one radio, maybe for themselves to serve their home or their business. They start their own ISP, kind of a mom and pop operation where the owner is the one climbing the towers. But we've now seen some bigger companies get into this service. And with fiber-fed towers, it's definitely improved quite a bit. It's quick to deploy, and it's inexpensive to deploy. Operating costs are much higher in installation costs for these wireless providers. And especially as they try and scale up, get to be bigger, a lot of these companies end up with challenges. Requires that line of sight. It doesn't work, doesn't go through trees, doesn't go over hills, doesn't go through barns or big buildings. A real challenge there. And know that the 3 mile out is usually pretty good. They stretch it sometimes to 7 miles. It can still provide service, but won't be nearly as strong a signal. Next. And then 2 types of satellite, the traditional HughesNet satellite, where that satellite is up 20,000 miles in the sky. You only have to point your satellite dish at one point in the sky. That satellite stays in the same place. We know that it's improved, but there's high speed, or it's a high price, low bandwidth caps, high latency that impacts its ability to use it for video conferencing. And I always hear about, well, is it raining? Is it snowy? Is it windy, foggy? That the weather definitely impacts service quality. Next. And then Starlink, and now other companies coming on board as well. Because these satellites are only a couple hundred miles up in the sky, the latency has dropped to, they say it will drop as low as 20 milliseconds. A fiber network might be 5 or 6 milliseconds. High geosynchronous satellites up 20,000 miles might be 1,000 milliseconds. Starlink is available everywhere, but you need a big view of the sky. If you're in the woods, the satellite dish has to move around and find that right next satellite to use. And so that can be a challenge in wooded areas. The sign-up costs are high. The subscription costs are high, and services decline with added users. And that's been reported both in the press and from folks on our calls that have reported that. But for people who had a DSL connection previously, Starlink is it is a technological marvel. There's no doubt about that. Next. So the bead challenge process. Before we do that, are there questions or comments? Some people, technologists, hear what I say, want to add some things, question some things. Any questions? Jerry, looks like you're a techie guy working in a school or something. What's any feedback on what I reported here?
Very accurate. You definitely went through all of our problems, or our students' problems. The schools are, we have pretty good fiber now that we built out using the E-rate program. But now I'm hoping to use your program to push decent internet to all of our students that are out there.
Okay, good, thanks. I saw you had a question about what Region 1 is happening. You know, I know that the through the READY program, and Robbie Macbeth is a real leader in that program with the state and trying to get more regional planning going. I know that we've helped them early on in Rockford County. They were helping whichever county that is now, where Rockford is, where they did some broadband planning. I know that they've really taken this to heart as a regional priority. So if you're seeing kind of some duplication there, I guess that's a good thing. That's because a lot of times we like to do planning at the county level, and that's why this breakthrough program is at the county, because it's really actionable. That okay, it's a county board, it's 1 or 2 school districts, can really make some things happen. But that doesn't mean a big regional initiative isn't valuable as well, to think about cross-county connectivity, coordination, and so on. So there's, I hope you find that these efforts are consistent and mutually supporting. Good. Let's go, Hillary. Do you want to take a few minutes and time? And I know Shabika, I saw her come on to the call. And so between Hillary and Shabika, do you guys want to talk a little bit about the challenge process? Hillary,
Yeah,
if you're
we can do
talking, you
that.
must be muted. There we go.
There we are. Is Shabika on here? Okay, well, basically, as you've said, we have many maps out in the world, and the one we are looking at is the BEAD challenge map. Talked a little bit about that. Essentially, the BEAD program is going to be kind of parallel with our Connect Illinois grant program, which you might have heard of. You might have had areas that have participated before, but this is an infrastructure grant. So we have infrastructure grants, we have different kinds of grants later, but this is just for getting towers up, getting fiber in the ground. But as you well know, the data on the map, not always correct, right? So like I say, my family's from Crawford County, and I already had to submit, there's a map, Ling dropped there. We already had to submit a challenge for my parents because it says they have Wabash Communications fiber to the door, and they do not. They only have satellite available, and it is less reliable than I think dial-up was when they stopped using it in 2008, if that tells you anything. So we were able to get a little bit of evidence there. You know, go to Wabash Communications and type in the address and say, hey, do you serve this address? And on their website, it says, no, we don't serve that address. So we could take a screenshot and then we can submit a challenge. So there's all sorts of different kinds of challenges. As you talked about, the speed is a big thing. So if you're paying for high speeds and you're not getting those speeds, then that can be a challenge. If you are, like you say, they say you have fiber to the door and you don't, that can be a challenge. If you have a a wireless tower in your area, but you might be on the fringes, you're not getting the speed you're supposed to, that's a challenge. So you can get more information, of course, on our website, our BEAD website here. And as Nancy dropped there, we are having these BEAD Challenge Lunch and Learns. So you can really get with the community and see how everyone else is doing their challenges. So you can submit a challenge through your unit of local government or nonprofit if they have pre-registered to do those challenges. Again, you can find that on our BEAD site there, or you can contact us and we can help you put it through as well. So not only do we have our lunch and learns, we also have office hours with our experts, our assistant director, Devin Bronstein, and of course, Shabika Agarwal, who is our just absolute rock star of a mapping and GIS expert. So this challenge will run through March 18th. We're trying to get the map right, but this will be kind of a rolling thing over the next little while. Do your best to get as many challenges in as possible. In fact, if you get 6 challenges in one census block on, say, you know, oh, Frontier says that they do this, that, and the other in this area, and they don't, then if you get 6 challenges on Frontier in that area, that triggers an area challenge. So you don't have to hunt down every single person who might have a challenge. You just get 6 and it'll do it. So if, again, you have any questions, let us know. We've got our bead map there. We've got Nancy there. And right there, that Connect Illinois bead site is there that Ling Ling dropped there. So yes, if anyone has any additional questions, let us know. And also, if you would like to be on our lists for our, you know, emails, anything like that, I'm going to drop here our IOB partner form. So feel free and you can fill that out and we will only send you the information that pertains to you. We're not going to spam you, but, you know, let us know who you are and how we can help you. If there are any questions, please let us know.
Good. Thanks for that, Hillary. I appreciate that. That it is a this is a real opportunity for communities to try and get a newspaper article or email lists or something. Just and because that challenge now is coming so quickly, you know, to get that done. So good. With that, let's stop sharing, Reed. And then see if there are any quick questions before we go. Otherwise, we're going to go into our breakout rooms. It'll really be just for you to talk in the last 20 minutes or so about your logistics of meeting. You know, I see that there's some people in meeting rooms, some people that are meeting just all through Zoom, and either approach is fine. There's some combination of that. You know, we started this program in the midst of the pandemic and in Minnesota, so it's all by Zoom. But clearly a lot of people would prefer to meet together, but we know that some of your counties are pretty big or transportation issues are a challenge. And so, you know, Zoom is a pretty convenient way for folks to participate each week without having to add another hour or more on for travel. And so think about those logistics, your internal communications, whether it's email lists or whether you're going to try and create a Facebook page or whatever you're going to do there. And then, of course, we talked earlier about additional stakeholders, whether from the ag community or maybe townships or other folks that maybe as you look at your team aren't represented as well. And so that is kind of our next step. And then when you meet in your rooms, you can meet really for as long as you think it's valuable. So we have set aside an hour. We keep those meeting rooms open generally for an hour and a half. So if your team meeting goes long, no problem with that. We've had folks do some of their broadband provider interviews during those times, and that's a great way to have your entire team together. We'll talk more about those provider interviews, but it's good when there's a group of community folks there as opposed to just one person doing a one-on-one interview. There's power in numbers, different perspective. Everyone hears a little bit differently. And so, and I think the providers take it a little more seriously when there's a team of folks there. If you've got a big team, you don't necessarily have to have your whole team there, but if you have a subcommittee, that's a powerful way to do it as well. Any questions or comments? Know that you'll get later today or early tomorrow, you'll receive a email from Reed and Nancy that shows, you know, here's the meeting recording, here's all the websites links we talked about in the thing during the meeting and so on. So if you're not a big note taker, know that there'll be a pretty good summary that comes along within a day or so of the presentation. So my buddy, I'm going to call my fishing friends, Joe. What do you think, Joe Uyghur?
Bill, still got a few questions in my mind about the survey that we're getting ready to do and the cover letter that goes out and what's the purpose of it. If it is not to be part of the challenge process.
Yeah, so we and know that Nancy next week will spend the hour working with you on the surveys. And so we're in good shape there. You don't have to start worrying about that yet. But it has gotten more complicated with these with the challenge process kind of en route. We do take the we do use the same website for the speed tests on our survey that is the website for the challenge. So know that that is coordinated, but the timing is always difficult on these things, whether we're, depending on which state, whether we're early or late and so on. But I think it is worthwhile just as a communications piece for your community to try and get people to go out and take those speed tests. And because those speed tests do go into that national federal database of speed tests. And if you have somebody who's really interested in your community, you know, the links that Nancy has provided, you know, people can get a lot of detail or contact Hillary or Ling Ling or Shabika as to real guidance there. It's complicated, and I've tried to kind of stay out of it and make sure that the Illinois folks are in the lead role and informing you how that works.
So how many rounds of funding will there be, grant funding? So if we're not eligible for one like this one, if every house in Lawrence County is green or red, excuse me, but we're not eligible for funding, when are we going to be eligible for funding? And how, you know, and is each individual going to have to challenge, or are we going to challenge as a group, or how's that going to work?
Joe, I'm usually for the county, it's a local government or a nonprofit that kind of takes a little bit of charge to get some of the information straightened out. And I think what I would like to do is get you in touch with Devin and make sure that you guys can have a direct conversation together so that Lawrence County doesn't miss an opportunity to submit their information about unserved and underserved areas of the county, and so that it gets in that bead map. And folks, I did put some information in the chat in regards to the bead challenge, as well as some other information. So if you haven't opened the chat yet during this meeting, you're going to see a bit of a flood of information, but you can just kind of sit tight because Reed works to get that all curated nicely. And of course, we'll send that out later on today. And then the only other thing I want to kind of remind folks is a few weeks ago, there was a really nice session with these bead challenge lunch and learns that we do that talked about how counties do the work. And I believe there was Lake County and McLean County that talked about how they did that work. And we're happy to send a link to that YouTube video of those folks from those counties talking about how they did that as well. I believe we sent it out a few weeks ago to the other cohort, but we're happy to share that with this cohort as well. Other than that, I hope to see a lot of you on that lunch and learn today. The deadline looks to be March 18th at this time in terms of counties getting their correct information submitted. And that looks just fine with our timeline because that's about around when you'd want to launch your surveys. And so you can focus on making sure that you communicate and get the bead challenge tasks done, and then we'll look at that surveying piece.
And know that the bead challenge process is kind of a time limited activity, and hopefully, you know, I think the maps, it's going to be an interesting thing over the next year on eligibility. I think there's such an uproar about maps and challenge processes. And even after the challenge process, that the maps, if they find out that, we'll just say Lake County does a great job on the challenge process, and they uncover thousands of unserved people that this federal government said was served. And that happens, across the United States, where multiple counties find this. The ones who did the work, who were organized already to do the work and did it successfully, if they find all these areas that are where the maps are wrong, I think there's going to be such an uproar that those maps will either be adjusted or thrown out. I think there's people, who that's my hope anyways, is that there's people see that, look, at these maps have proven to be not reliable, so we should stop because Joe, I know there's a lot of places unserved in your county, and if the maps show them as served, then I believe your knowledge over the maps. And I think that the knowledge in your room on your team, I believe that a lot better than the federal maps provided by data from the providers that have an interest in claiming incorrect information. And there's virtually no penalties for providers over claiming. So that's the thing. I'd like to see them have to pay a fine of $5,000 for every address they claim is served that you can document it isn't, but I don't think that's going to happen. But so we'll see. So just know that you're doing the work, and that, what do they say about Americans? They'll always do the right thing after trying everything else. I think Winston Churchill said that. So, I don't think that necessarily has changed. So know that we're working on that. And the surveys, this Vermilion County, we're going to provide you with the survey. So you don't have to create a survey. And so the survey you use will be the same one that's been used by these 40 other counties in Illinois throughout our process. So Nancy will, she's actually got those about ready to go for each of the counties. And so you'll be able to, you need to focus on marketing this survey. So there you go. Nancy's always helpful. So, so know that we've got a well-tested instrument that's been used in Illinois and then adopted in like 5 other states now as well. So the less we mess with it, the better it works. I'll tell you that. So good. And now we're only got a few minutes left, so let's go to the breakout rooms, and you guys can summarize the next steps. Know that next week is all about the surveys, so think about your logos of sponsoring. Know about the this cover letter. And again, one of the things that I tried to mention is key to success in this program is not thinking too hard. Don't try and be perfect on a cover letter for the survey. Just produce one. You've got good writers in your team, I suspect, who are used to writing these kind of little things. So 3 or 4 paragraphs. Why has broadband been important? Who are we? What are we going to do with the information? And prepare that cover letter quickly and efficiently, and don't spend too much time trying to make it perfect. So we kind of don't let the good be the excellent be the enemy of the good. We're strong believers in that. So thank you so much. Nancy, you want to open the rooms?
Sure, I've got these for 40 minutes just to let people hang out until 11. Of course, you don't have to stay on for 40 more minutes at all. Just want to give some counties the option. All right, let's open those up. And of course, you can unmute yourself and let me know if you need me to manually place you in a room. Can someone advise where Kennedy Phillips goes? Because I think she or he has an audio issue and can't let us know. I don't know if anybody heard me, but
I did.
She goes to Lawrence County.
Great.
Lawrence
Thank you
County.
so much. We aren't going to forget that one. Thank you. Okay, now she can be in her breakout. And so she only really missed, or he, it was a she, only really missed the meet and greet. So, and Kong, I don't know if you heard this, if I sent you this, but Bill had said you can take your pick in terms of communities. I will say that it's interesting to have Lawrence, Massac, and Johnson, because even like yesterday, I was talking to someone, they're like, well, Illinois is all flat. And I'm thinking, and I just said, no, we're definitely not all flat, you know, but there's some great research out there about broadband development for like Appalachia. And I feel like some of that will relate to some of these counties in this cohort. So that'll be great. If you're interested, I saw you chose Massac, so you can always go back there if you want. And I'm only seeing a J Curly